so many things here, like holy moly. Clifton, can you tell me if you are actually hiding any more gold besides this?
So let's just put it this way, okay? Whenever I step into my room, we always advise visitors and myself to wear safety gear.
Hi guys, Chris here from the Southern Islands, and we have someone whose name has been brought up like in our vlog, some of our posts, like players keep bringing up, go and find Coach Clifton, Coach Clifton. Who is Clifton? Who is Clifton? Finally, we have him here. We put a face to the name. Thank you so much, Coach Clifton, for joining me here for an interview. I know you for a very long time. I feel that we've played competitively before as well. I think I've matched up with you a few times. There's one memory that I had. It was a League Cup in EXT, and I got smashed by you because you played Chimeco. Something like that.
Oh, right.
For some reason, that memory has stuck with me for the rest of my life. Like, I lost to Chimeco.
Okay.
What did the Chimeco do again? I think some sort of lock,
it's
right?
a tech card that for 1 energy prevents you from playing evolutions. So it's really good in the mirror.
Yes.
There was plenty of evolutions being played.
Correct. I always remember. I remember the exact chair where I sat down facing you, and I was like, oh no, Clifton. Oh
this
no.
This was top 4 of the tournament, right?
Correct. That's why I was just like, of all the people, Clifton. That word, of all the people, Clifton. Like for me, I've known Clifton as one of the top players in Southeast Asia for like, wow, bajillion years. I think like even when I started playing in Malaysia, right? Even Malaysians would know, oh, Singapore, hey, you better be careful, Clifton Goh. You bang, you probably die. Like, I think you just see yourself the amount of like trophies here that you know the caliber of the person that I'm speaking to here, and he's now probably the brains behind some of like top players learning, like coaching in fact. So Coach Clifton has actually, if you haven't seen the interview with Bryan Quah, you should check out below. So Coach Clifton was actually behind the idea of Super Tina, and his like coach to coach him through like, I think we were like with him for 2 weeks plus, even more. Like I think he contacted you like very long ago. I think you watched the interview, you hear a little bit about it. So I want to know about Coach Clifton. Like this is spotlight on you. So I'm curious to know about how you are like secretly influencing, not really, but like how you've been mentoring, I think, the Pokemon TCG community, not just now, like with Bryan and your students now, but even from like way back when, even when I was applying for Worlds, trying to represent Worlds as a Singaporean. I remember we were all asking you for help the time we were playing like Ice Rider Palkia for London. Even then, and even before, I always hear that we ask Clifton for help. So very curious. But before we go into all that, I just want to ask you first about your Pokemon story, like how you got into Pokemon.
Okay, so it is not the glamorous and smooth sailing journey that everyone expected it to be. In actual fact, how I started was pretty much an underdog story.
Huh?
Exactly. Growing up, I had a very strict upbringing. So, literally, I was the only kid in my class without a GBC, Game Boy Color, a Game Boy Advance, let alone Pokemon cards, which were like kind of the higher tier in terms of like street cred items that someone could have, right? And this added on by the fact that I was from an all-boys school, for example, right? So I was like, no street cred at all, right? Because my parents were very strict. They wanted me to study. So when everyone was outside and playing, it's like the SpongeBob meme, like Squidward was like, there's this meme where
I stay outside the window.
Yeah, exactly. SpongeBob and Patrick was like doing this, right? So while you guys were on Facebook, I was literally facing books, for example, right? And something that I've always wanted to try. When perhaps you were still in Malaysia, but back then in the late 90s, when Pokemon first came out, this place called Bishan MRT was full of fanatics of the TCG.
Okay.
You're like sitting on random locations on the floor, on benches,
What was
whatever.
the card shop there, is it?
People just gather there. I have no idea. But every time like I happen to walk past there or whatever, I see so many people just having a really good time, but I can never be part of that. Right? And my journey began when there was no academic obligations to fulfill, aka national service, NS, where you don't have to study and there is no reason to study because you don't even know what your uni course was yet, right? So that was a moment of respite and a chance for some of us to pursue things that we've always wanted. Back then, when I was such a bookworm, I always wanted to pursue the greatest craze of my era, which is Pokemon. And not only Pokemon TCG, where all the coolest kids are. You can have a GBC, you can have a GBA, you can even have a Game Shark Game Boy printer, but nothing beats the cool kid with that Charizard card, right? And you kind of wanted that, you wanted a piece of that. So I was like, hey, it's time to explore something that I always wanted to try. Let's do Pokemon TCG, and that's where the legend began, right? Legend of somebody who just wanted to play and played a bit too much. And
you can see that, yeah, really.
I would just want to take this chance to say that this means that no matter where you come from, whether you're disadvantaged in some way, you're busy, you don't really have facility to practice, whether you're lacking in cards, don't let it be a deterrent to you to pursue your dreams. Be it Pokemon, TCG, or anything. Anyone with the right motivation and a bit of guidance from people can always achieve their dreams, right? This I've always firmly believed. So mine's an underdog story, being good, and I do believe that for time to come, maybe there's so many people out there who will also learn to discover the joy of Pokemon as well. That's my story.
Wow, if you look at all this, their side got champion, this side got finalists, this playmat, the next final playmat, I think my most favorite playmat of them all, of all the playmat designs, this is my most
It's my favorite too.
This is this one, wow. You know, like Jeremy got give me one of this, but like full of stains. Don't know whether really Jeremy's, don't know what lah. This top 8 playmat from LIC, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Then
You get it if you top card LA and IC.
my god, like just like I don't know, you can't really see here or can't do it. You can see all these signatures of all like the top players around the world on this playmat.
Right.
That's amazing. And I think the most prized stuff is like all in front of these cards. Like you only get this card if you get world's top 32 in the Pokemon TCG. It's one where you got world's top 16 as well.
This pair is in top 16.
Yeah. Then how about like those victory medals?
You get that from winning very old school premier events. Yeah, so
Like all these treasures, and they were all just in a box. Some of them were just in a box. My god, it's just my mind is blown just looking at all these. Like I've not really held this in my hand until just now when I was just laying all these out. Okay, so maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your successes in the game.
Where to start? Okay, so if there was something that I was very proud about, it's my consistency in the game. So I started playing for 10 full seasons, okay, and I've gotten 10 Worlds invites consecutively. So
How many players have done that in the world? I think
I'm not sure.
I don't think we can even count them. Especially this region itself.
Right.
I think that's very rare.
So
I think.
I guess it's rare. I don't think I can think of any Asian players off the top of my head who can do that.
10 consecutive Worlds invites.
Yeah, and then I retired. But it's a different story for another time. And I'm really proud of that because these 10 years have different systems and rule sets. When I started, it was a BO1 Swiss franc system, very much like our current one. And only the top few in your continent, can get invite. So we used to be grouped under Oceania, which is Asia, Australia, and I think only top 8 of that bunch of people could get Worlds invite. For the first 2 years, it was like that.
Wow.
And it was BO1 Swiss, BO3 Top Cut. In that, I performed. Right? I've done a good job. Then we moved on to BO1 Swiss, but threshold system, where you hit a certain number of CP, you get invite. BO3, threshold system, and so on. All sorts of formats, right? From formats which people remember as locking formats, where you just couldn't play a quarter of your deck, for example, or two-thirds of your deck. Aggro formats, donking formats, and the card game is full of variants. Even the grades like Todd can't win every day, right? So for you to be consistent, sure, you can't win every time. Unfortunately, it's variance. You draw a bad hand against somebody who's good, you're gonna lose. But to always show up and have some kind of placing that over a long period has given me sustainable and consistent results shows that hey, in the face of adversity and variance, you can always fight back. And I've shown many times that people watch my matches. That's what happens if you do really well. People want to know your strategy. They've seen me have very bad hands, but always been able to fight out of it. And I'm very proud of that because it ties in with the identity of being an underdog, which is the story that I've related. How did I get into it? Right, so
still, I'm shocked by the way you hear this story.
Right. So I'm very proud of that one. But let's go to more specific international level kind of achievements. Times where I took on the world, for example. So where do I start again? So as some of you may know, I am, as far as I know, the first, I'm definitely the first, but as far as I know, only Asian who has ever lifted an IC trophy. Which one was it? Is it this one? Yes, this one.
Yes.
Yeah. So, first Asian, for sure. Only Asian. Up to the pandemic era, I never caught up with whoever lifted any trophies in particular after the pandemic era, unless they're my friends. So that's one thing. And this was accompanied by multiple top 16 and top 32 finishes.
And Worlds.
Every time I appear at top card at an IC Internationals or Worlds, it's always a magical moment. It never gets old, you never take it for granted. So if you guys always wanted to do well at an event, I would suggest you guys try top cutting at Internationals or Worlds. It's a great experience, I highly recommend it. Yeah, it's really fun. And this is not just my individual achievement. I have demonstrated my ability to be a team player. So I have had the privilege of working with some of the top teams around the world, era after era. So one of my crowning achievements was with Team Honor Roll, a team that had 4 world champions inside, right? And I had the privilege of working with them. I've learned so much and I've contributed so much as well. One of our crown jewels is the 2015 Worlds winning deck, Honest Toys.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned that,
Yeah, piloted by Jacob and Wagner. Our whole team during that summer before Worlds, we sat down every day. We started cooking on Facebook, we started testing, we started having data sheets and data charts, statistics, notes, everything, just to compile the deck, right? And I'm so proud of Jacob, I'm so proud of what our team has done. Another crowning achievement for the team, and Nick, you would remember this.
Me?
Yeah, this is the Rogue Evil Tall deck. That
Oh my
NAIC.
gosh.
We did well at NAIC. Right?
Yes.
At 2018, it's a Rogue deck cooked up by the same team, and as you remember, it completely revolutionized the game as it is. It operated really differently from every other deck out there.
It just turned the metagame upside down.
Right.
Until I remember asking Clifton to give his insights for, don't want to say it, but Team Rainbow Wing. And if I can still find the article, I'll probably link it somewhere so that you guys can read the Beautiful Night.
I guess.
I think if you were really interested in reading the Beautiful Night, well,
Right. Maybe I can just,
I mean, just
put it in the comment section. Wait.
Oh, I think they will. just like reading, like just the amount of text again, right? I think this shows how much insight in the game that you have. Like maybe you talk more about like this Evil thing and your other achievements, sorry, like cut you some cordial.
It's okay. I do like to talk about the Evil deck. So the tournament report and analysis that I wrote was like 24,000 words long or something like that. I can't remember. It's a lot of data to go through, but that just illustrates the amount of rigor you kind of need to be proficient at the game at a certain level.
That's really my first like taste, I think, of
Right.
Clifton Goh.
Sure. And usually it's a team effort, and usually you can't figure it out yourself on your own. You need guidance from people who are good to bring you there. So Pokemon is actually in some ways a team sport. Outside of the single player setting, right? You always need a strong ecosystem of people to practice with, because if you practice 10,000 games, for example, but they're all low quality games, you'll be practicing the wrong thing and you'll be the master of the wrong thing. Maybe I'd rather just have 100 quality games. They'll trump those 10,000 games anytime. Back to Evil the success was fantastic.
Yep.
It had a very high day 2 IC conversion rate. It saw one of my teammates, Aaron Tarbell, enter top cut at NAIC of like a 4-digit player base with the deck. I also took that deck to top 32 finish at Worlds as well, so it's pretty decent as well. So, to my former, now defunct Team Honorable members, if you guys are watching this, thank you very much. Thanks for the memories. I've learned so much. And thanks for the opportunity to work with you. I'm glad I could contribute. Other showings of teamwork include working with some of the top Australian players who are still household names right now. Names like Iwan, Brent Thompson, and Christian Hasbani. Working with them to create some really broken decks in their lingo, right? For example, I've ended my career journey as a competitive Pokemon player on a really high note, because my last IC, I went undefeated, and I was the only undefeated player there. I checked, because why wouldn't you check on your last run, right? I had 8 wins, 6 draws, right? So I finished in 9th place at the IC.
Melbourne OCIC 2020, right?
That's right. That was my very last IC. I ended my playing journey on a very high note with ADP deck hooked up with some of the top Australian players. Right? Shout outs to them. I mentioned them. They are now household names.
Yeah. I'm surprised that you still have that deck to this day.
Yeah, I have it. So fond memories. And being undefeated at IC, how many people can say that, right?
Very, very rare. I don't know, probably have to even check on like either Limitless and where else to see whether you got any other person that's undefeated throughout.
Right. Even Nico Alabas, who eventually won, he sustained like 2 losses in Swiss. So I thought it was pretty good. And I think you'll also recall that event I played really safe. I didn't want to, like games that I could push for a win, perhaps.
Yeah.
I decided to play really safe and, play a really defensive angle and settle for a draw, because I had a very prudent approach towards the game, points and prize money secured in a very reasonable way with reasonable and safe expectation of return. It's better than going for the win for myself. So I was very happy with the result. So I ended on a high note, and that's a good element of teamwork as well. And I'm proud of that, because I don't value myself only as a player, I value myself as somebody who can work very well with people. Right? Because hey, this is what playing should be about.
Yeah.
You and your friends get there together. Right? On the note of being closer to home, I would say that let's talk about Nationals, which is the marquee event of every local circuit.
Yeah.
As far as I remember, I am the only Singaporean to have ever won Nationals more than once. So we have my first ever Nationals win in my first season, which will give you a trip to Worlds. This is the, if I recall, National Championship trophy for winning. So yeah, I have won Nationals more than once. And plenty of regional wins as well as appearances in the top 2 and top 4 podium finishes. So there are quite a number of them, right?
A number. There's at least there's 10 here, right? 1, 2, 3, yes, 10. No, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 9. And there's so many trophies here. I can't count already.
Yeah, so, and of course, if you do well, you get a playmat, right?
This is as a playmat collector, right? I was a little heart pain looking at this bag of just rolled up playmats from so around the world.
So yeah, this is my regionals performances. Stakes is something along the lines of like smaller regionals performances as well.
Yeah.
I have won a high number of league cups, which are the TLs, and I can't remember how many other things I've won. So that's my local achievements and contributions.
That was a very empowering story. I feel like learning about your stories, the success in the game. I think there's no player. I mean, especially when you were playing back then, I think everybody wanted to be in your shoes. Everybody wanted to experience this like level of success. But again, I know that the amount of effort you put in, I think, really eclipses like anyone else I've seen.
Oh, thank you.
But now that you've retired, you've gone into a more coaching role.
Right.
Like we've seen like a few people shout out your name, shout out Coach Clifton,
Appreciate it.
and Javad. And for example, the new regional league champion, Bryan Quah, I think you guys should just check out the interview down below. So Clifton, I was just wondering maybe you could share a little bit about your coaching philosophy and how it's shaped you as a player in the Pokemon TCG.
Sure. So maybe I will try to reverse the question a bit.
Okay.
How did my experiences as a player shape my coaching philosophy?
Okay.
Because chronologically, I was a player first. Okay. So with the first 2 questions, I have touched on 2 things. The underdog story and me valuing consistency above anything else. I'd rather have sustained good performances than one dream run, getting first place. That's my kind of thing. I prefer continued moderate success. I think that's something that in a game that's as variance heavy as Pokemon, that's all you could really ask for. Perhaps if you won, maybe it was your day. And that's fair, right? No one's going to take anything away from you. This is a card game. But wouldn't it be nicer to tell somebody, hey, I've kept up with the times and I've kept giving good performances. Some of them wins. I think that sounds really nice. It sounds nicer. So let's tackle the underdog story part first. As I've mentioned, I've come from a background where it is very unconducive to being good at the game. My parents initially did not support me. They did not give me a single cent to play this game. During NS, I lived very frugally so that I could fund my hobbies and just buy minimum rarity cards to play. I took all my free time, my weekends to play. In university, I took up part-time jobs to fund flights, accommodation, and who can forget cards, right? To continue playing. On top of juggling studies, part-time jobs, and practice time for cards. It is not easy. But I would say this much, it's possible. And I believe that any student from any walk of life, whether you're adulting really hard, or you're a newbie, right? Whether you're a junior, senior, master, I've coached all categories. I've coached all skill levels. I've coached in BO1 formats, I've coached in BO3 formats. Incidentally, originally it was me mentoring people as a more senior player in the community. I've seen all of them get an invite to Worlds time and time again. It is entirely possible. So the first part of my coaching philosophy is anyone can get there. It doesn't matter. As long as you have a desire to improve and the right guidance, you will succeed. You will get there, right? It's the first thing. Second thing, consistency. How do we achieve consistency in Pokemon cards? Some days you draw really bad hand, right? I've seen people draw bad hands. I've seen myself draw bad hands. People have seen me draw bad hands and still win. right? How do you do this? Because Pokemon is a skill-based game.
Oh, what? No, it's a skill. Go on.
And honing skills in the TCG is a long-term endeavor, right? I would say that if you ask anyone, hey, are you able to win? Obviously they'll say, heck yes, I'll win. Can you keep winning? Change the question a bit. They'll give you some pause. But if you have some skill sets, right, you'll be able to craft beautiful deck lists, elegant gameplays, over and over again. This is why some of the greats stay at the top. This is why some people say, don't learn to play a specific deck, learn to play the game. And in my coaching, I've always taken a very long-term view in my students' improvement. I want you outside the confines of the classroom to have what it takes in every format to succeed. Skill set that you can take home with you, take with you to the top card tables and score. That's all.
Even I'm inspired now to take some coaching, man. Maybe can improve. Maybe I won't be the worst TSI member. Maybe. Actually, just very curious. You stopped playing in 2020, and then we had a pandemic, so no one played, except me, for some weird reason, play ESL. And then the scene came back again.
Won ESL.
We don't talk about online tournament. That's
Right.
like semi-official, even though it's like... Anyway, so back into the current format with TPC now in control of Singapore.
Sure.
How are you still like in the game, you know, like you're keeping up with the current meta?
Who says that?
No, I
You know the deck lists I get, you know?
Huh?
Yeah, I just dream of them and I just like, you know, you wake up and it's like, oh yeah, I dreamed of this 60 cards. Alright guys, just take lists, it's alright.
Oh, okay lah.
Yeah,
So you just dream that Giratina better, it's a good deck lah.
I guess. Isn't that how people come?
Yeah.
Yes, I do keep up with the meta. Just because somebody isn't playing competitively doesn't mean they can't follow the game, doesn't mean that they are not in contact with some of the peers who are still doing well in the game and have resources and have good ideas and discussions to share. You learn off them every day. You know, part of the reason why I stopped playing is because I have a lot of commitments in life, right? One says a trainer's life is easy, right? But at the same time, you're still interested in the mechanics of the game, and you want to try to push the boundaries of the game. And I happen to achieve some kind of results with that. And I would like to share them with people who aspire to improve, because once as a player, I wanted somebody to help me as well, right? And I had to endure countless trial and error to do it. What if somebody says, hey, those 3 years of your errors and mistakes are erased, you get results in 2 months? How would you like that? I would like that very much.
Yeah, we would like that very much, yeah.
That's how we started.
So with that in mind, right, what kind of skill sets do you bring as a coach, right? I mean, compared to like people who are like playing very competitively now?
Right. I'm glad you mentioned the competitive aspects, because that's very relevant to this discussion.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like compare to like some guy who buys starter deck from Pokemon Center and go and play lah.
So it's a really good question, because I'm pretty sure that there's plenty of lingering doubt. Hey, this person is not competing anymore, it's quality assured. So one thing I would say is that it is good that I'm not competing, and that's my competitive edge over some of the coaches in the market, because there's this thing called conflict of interest. The conflicts between the interests of pursuing your dream as a top player and dedicating time and effort into it, and the interest of doing the same but to be a good coach. I'm not sure if you agree, but the skill set of being good at something differs somewhat from the skill set of being good at teaching that same skill and that same discipline. These two are often not mutually exclusive, and time spent chasing that tournament finish, traveling, practicing, is time spent away from teaching. drafting good and solid lesson plans for every possible permutation of student that comes your way, for them to digest, to customize and tailor-make your syllabus to them. That takes time, that takes effort, right? And I've seen some of the most popular coaches in the current era, especially on platforms like MetaFi, they're also actively competing players. And props to them, they're doing really well. If not, and they should be doing well because you should be paying for quality and what is tried and tested. But at the same time, these players are also very busy competing. These players are working hard on their own backs, busy traveling, right? Something has got to give. Let's put it this way. And as a paying consumer, will you gamble that thing that has got to give maybe the quality of coaching? I'm not saying they're lousy coaches. I'm saying that there's a chance that especially in peak periods when everyone's competing, where coaching is most needed, that's when that kind of conflict of interest between resources starts to break apart. Would you rather have somebody who has shown similar quality, but instead has given complete effort and plenty of their time to the art of teaching instead?
Making my money's worth, lah.
In a consumer perspective, yes. And I would say in a Singaporean's perspective, one-one.
One
Right.
right.
It's very one-one, right? It's very Quah's one. It's you will not swing, right? You will not lose out, basically, right? I think I butchered that. But it's okay. Yeah, so that's irrelevant. Yeah, so that's what I believe sets myself apart from a lot of the other coaches, right? That having the tried and tested, right? Having the resources to contribute to teaching more than actually playing, and not having a conflict of interest where you have to decide between one or the other in the form of like a dilemma. That's my take on this.
So you heard that, like Edmund. But to be honest with you, I've never thought about it that way. The amount of time that a coach gives to the player. Yeah, it didn't occur to me that a competitive player also has his own wants to go and win the tournament. For example.
Right.
So I just didn't occur to me.
You raised a really good point because maybe you guys see a really standard 3-hour session as coach spending 3 hours and you paying for 3 hours of work. Slight correction. It's not 3 hours of work. Maybe it's 9 hours of work. They have to draft a lesson plan. They have to make sure the deck they are cooking for you and teaching you, they all pass a certain quality test. It's a viable line of play. It's a good list. Do you know how much testing goes into that? To ensure QC, to ensure that hey, this is not some random. Let's say you want to learn start deck. It's not something you copy and pasted from the list and then make things up on the fly. Oh yeah, Charizard, Rare Candy, yeah, attack, beat face, right? Of course not. But that takes time. All coaches who are worth their salt, they don't just sit down there, tell you, sit down, son. I'm gonna beat your face with Zard and you will remember it and that will be your lesson. Alright, and that'll be like 100 USD an hour. Thank you. Right.
I think that is the perception of most people thinking, when they're going to coaching depths like that. I think no one really sees the time you take, to like perfect those hours that you say.
Right.
Maybe even not even 9. I think even for me, I've seen you at like random times on your computer, like checking some permutations of some place or something like that.
Exactly.
Like even that, I was really shocked already.
Because let's put it this way, in our community so I'm talking about the Singaporean community, as I've understood, the recent regionals has somewhere in the mid 300s.
Yeah, correct.
So
won't be surprised if it goes up to 400.
Right, exactly. Right. So to stay on top of that population of players, you have to outthink 300 plus players and come up with something better than that.
Yeah.
That's only the first step. So you have to account for a lot of variables first. Second step is to translate them into a way that your students can digest in a few hours at a time. That's the challenge. It's not an easy gig, right? But something that, due to incidental experience, I have perhaps, there's no exaggeration to say, being prepared for this role for around a decade. Where I've been mentoring people as a senior member of the community, understanding the game really well. All these came together really nicely in the package that makes me a coach that has so far delivered some results.
Yeah.
And hopefully will continue to do so. On top of the fact that the first few formats I've played is BO1 and ranking makes the invite.
Sounds familiar, eh?
A bit familiar. So I have plenty to offer in terms of that kind of format, which Western coaches may not have. And it's no fault of their own. They are playing to different rules, so they have to be good at different rules, right? They have to perhaps have an entire lesson on how to be control, but control is really uncommon here, right? So my coaching is tailor-made to the Southeast Asian experience,
Okay.
for example. The context of like our current tournament circuit. And as a little bit of a bonus, I'm experiencing best of 3, so anyone has any IC dreams, I can work with you on that to help make it come true. Or if you want to seek help for top card preparation, like let's say you make cut at Swiss and it says like, my top card opponent next morning on Sunday, it's Beast. Do we have any top card preparation available? I would say yes, because for a lot of my playing journey, it's best of 3 all the way. So I have plenty to share on that. So I'm put in a very unique position in the market where I can understand the Southeast Asian need.
Yeah.
Right. For example, maybe a Western coach will give you a list with anti-control tech, like Spirit Tune, which may not necessarily be something that is entirely useful or has the same level of utility as it is overseas compared to here. So to cater to the local market, I think that's one of my unique selling positions as well.
Jeremy, right? He always like to mention, like when he like top card or what, I always mention, not always thanks to Clifton for advice.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Always mention Clifton. So Clifton, now that you're no longer competing, right? How willing are you to share these like competitive secrets that you wouldn't have when you were not at the time actively competing?
Right. So to be very clear, I have never withheld any secrets of the trade from people. Maybe it's not known to many, but I have an oversharing issue last time. It's a lot better. Like literally, when somebody asks me like, "Oh, yeah, X and X fact about Pokemon decision, blah blah blah," right? I will start reading from the Lord of the Rings trilogy or something. Yeah, that kind of thing. Okay. And the only caveat to this is that I will maintain secrecy and confidentiality if it was very explicitly made very clear to me that this was very important. For example, maybe my overseas friends approach me and say, "Hey Cliff, there's an idea we would like to work with you. We would like your consultation, your input, and your contributions. But we agreed to keep this secret until maybe a certain time frame post-event, or post a set of events." That's when I'll keep a secret, because to me, being discreet, maintaining somebody's confidentiality and trust is very important. And as a coach, if you want to work with me on an idea that's like a homebrew, and you wanted it to be kept secret until whatever event, same promise to you, has been kept and will be kept. But back to the topic of sharing secrets, I would say there are many secrets in the community of Pokemon, the gameplays, the kind of decks some teams favor, the secret tags, and the spice that they may run, right? These are not publicly available information, and
Xavier's deck.
exactly, right? And for some of those secrets, right, just knowing maybe even one of them can elevate your gameplay so much. I think you've been on the receiving end of this.
Yep.
For the common viewing experience, is somebody opens their laptop and they come online and they watch a regionals being streamed or an IC being streamed, and they watch top players fight each other, and they don't see anything very special. And some veteran players can attest to this, as they watch more and they play more, they start to see subtleties in the gameplay, and then they have an epiphany. And those are the secrets, and these are hard fought and hard won. After many, many years, you'll find new things to learn every time. That's why the game is beautiful. But at the same time, it's a bit frustrating, But I always like to share such things with people, right? But it's always limited to my friend group, right? People that I worked with in the past, and some of the top teams in the world when I worked with them, right? Because as a competitive player, your exposure to the people you interact with is pretty limited. You only have so much time in the day to interact with a certain amount of people and practice your gameplay. And now that I'm free to do as I please, this same channel of information is available to anyone who's willing to step forward and sign up. So, in short, what I may share with you, any of you who signed up, is a distilled, concentrated, very carefully curated collection of the best practices honed over a decade of playing at a world-class level in a wide variety of formats. That's my whole take on the matter.
Okay, so everybody knows that you coached Bryan Quah to win the Regional League Volume 3. Maybe you could tell me about some other players that you've coached successfully?
Right. So, yes, we celebrate big wins.
Okay.
Right. But as I have firmly established at the start of the interview, always root for the underdog. Right. And we always celebrate, and to me personally, on a personal level, we always celebrate people who have breakthroughs when they struggle at first.
Okay.
So one of the stories that I am proud of is a recent one. So this was a student who had their regionals 4 days away before they approached me.
Oh, this one is the, I mentioned in the podcast, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Touched on it. So they had 4 days before their regionals, and consequently only a few hours of coaching. So they were very insistent on picking up this Super Tina deck because it aligns very nicely with their preferred approach to the game. And also because I've had a hand in making Super Tina come true. So in essence, I was probably the person to approach for coaching. That's fair. But at the same time, I did give them fair counsel that this deck is above average in difficulty to run. And with such little time to prepare, they may reconsider the decision. But they said, no, I would really like to play this deck and to success. And to add on to the difficulty level, the goal set out for this particular endeavor was to hit a score of X3 in Swiss, which will be on par with that student's best ever record. They wanted to mirror their PB, personal best, with a deck that is above average in difficulty. They just picked up in 4 days, a few hours of coaching, and oh yeah, the regionals are some of the best players in the country as well, right? When they sat down to wait for the rounds to start, looking around, they messaged me, hey, 50% of the field are monsters. Right? So we have those obstacles. And not only that, remember, I'm somebody who believes in long-term results. You're asking me to help conjure a short-term goal, but I can. It's not something I'll prefer, but I will. And I did. Because the happy ending is, not only did my student get what they wanted, they exceeded it. So the score was X2 instead, right? And when my student secured a score that was definitely minimally X3, with one more Swiss round to go, he texted me, hey, I'm so happy, thank you very much. Right? And I said, no, don't be satisfied with the next one. I know you can do it. They did. They were so ecstatic. Right? And they definitely signed up for a package, saying that, hey, now it's time to do a long-term journey to improvement and success. So this is an underdog story made good. Right? So well done. I'm very proud of you. I hope you will continue to work towards your success as well. And yeah, this is something that I've always been proud of, to make people who, demonstrate their skills, achieve what they want, exceed their expectations, find happiness in achievement. I mean, those are the basic necessities that you need to handle in order to be a good coach. And that is one of my favorite stories of success lately. Another point that made it really sweet, right? That made it very, it's affirmation that your coaching is effective is when he spoke with some of the other players who picked up this super dinner deck for the regionals and learned that each and every one of them bombed out at like a 0-3 or whatever, which is like the lowest possible rank before you get dropped or something like that. And they all were crowding around him and asking, hey, how did you get an X2 score with it, right? This deck is impossible to run. And then he proudly endorsed me. He said, hey, why don't you seek some guidance from Singapore, right? This is how I got it done. So to turn something that on average would otherwise produce some of the poorest results, and with only a few hours of touch and go input, can produce a result that exceeded somebody's very aspirational goals and their best record. I think that's also something a coach can be really proud of.
I think for that player, and if I were to even think about my own experiences, right, playing in such a high level tournament, very pressure. For me as well, even thinking about it makes my hands sweat right now, you know. So how do you handle, or how do you teach your students to handle high pressure situations,
Right.
you know, especially in these kind of big level tournaments?
Without sharing too much, if not, this video would be an entire video series.
Hey,
right?
what an idea, eh?
Let's put it in a very relatable manner.
Okay.
So, as a competitive player, I completely relate because I suffer from tournament jitters as well. And perhaps worse than the average person. Why? It's because we are competitive players. If that win doesn't mean enough to you, if you don't place that much importance to it, you feel jitters? No, it's just I'm gonna play for fun, right? I'm just gonna roll the dice, get donked, whatever. I'm gonna collect my Iono promo and goodbye. But no, we're competitive players, right? We don't want that Iono promo only. We also don't want that bosses order promo only. We also don't want that top 16 playmat only. We want to hold that champ for luck, maybe more, right? So what does it mean when you are very competitive and you always strive for success, which is something that is a trait that a lot of my students share. If not, why go the extra mile to learn something, right? When something means a lot more to you, every loss holds greater potential to tilt. Every win and in matters more than it should. Therefore, it is no surprise that the more competitive the player, the bigger the amount of pressure they have to handle. And some people do handle it better. Some people just solo it, go at it. To me, at that point, Pokemon meant a lot, right? So definitely tournament jitters were a thing. Add that to the fact that sometimes I appear on stream.
Yeah.
And when you're on stream, for the entire world to see, every misplay is magnified. Everyone will judge your play right or wrong.
Yeah.
Unimaginable amount of pressure. But I'll say this much. I've gone from a player who suffers from such jitters to a player who has very often won their win and ins, very often recovered from really bad beats to top cut, go beyond that, to a player that has won. And that requires a lot of self-control and ability to manage their negative emotions and channel them to something more useful. So rest assured, I have ways to handle that because I've done that myself. I'm my first guinea pig. And hey, it came out really well, right? You guys can be the same as well. So coaching, at least my kind of coaching, is not merely the technical aspects of gameplay. Play this deck, make this line of play. No, there's also a psychological and emotional component to things. That's the entire package. Not only will it teach you to be a better player, technically, it will teach you to be a better competitor. That's something that I could offer. And in the case of the student, when they looked around the entire competing field and in their opinion, 50% are monsters, can only imagine how much adrenaline was going through the system at the time.
Yeah.
It still turned out fine.
Earlier you mentioned that you have students from not only like masters by Quah, or there's also have like seniors, even juniors as well. So how do you tailor your coaching methods to fit like all these different like levels of play? Even like I would assume different players as well need like different kinds of coaching.
Right.
Yeah.
So I will begin by affirming that yes, different players of different levels, different personalities, different builds, everything, every aspect, every micro aspect of them that makes them who they are today requires a different coaching approach to bring out the best of them.
You sound like idiot.
Right? It's one of the rigors of coaching. I would say that having over a decade of working with some of the best players from every culture that's English speaking to the boundaries of my ability in language. So top teams from the US, from Europe, from Australia, all sorts of different working styles, different personalities, different cultures, melding well together with them, working with some of the best in Asia, different cultures, different working styles, but you've always been able to contribute meaningfully. It's because of experiences like that then you learn to work with various people. On top of that, my incidental ability to, or rather incidental capacity of being like a community mentor as a senior player in the community, I teach people by accidents, like when I say something like as advice, it's teaching already. To juniors, to seniors, to my fellow masters, thinking that wide repertoire of experience and exposure allows me to not only be able to cater to all sorts of people, but know exactly what to cater and how to read somebody on almost like a near-sighted level. Alright, this player is like, okay, has these patterns. I've seen this pattern before. They know they need this, right? Patterns emerge. You see them clearly because of years of experience, and then you bring them to bear upon your coaching service. Then you realize that, okay, very quickly you can size a person up and look at, okay, you need exactly this, right? And also building up your own skill set from a newbie to a player who has done really well requires you to build a lot of skill sets, to install a lot of things, learn a lot of stuff. So I know exactly which parts are lacking, which parts are strong. All of this come together in a framework that allows me to quickly understand what is most optimal in terms of a set of procedures, regimes, and syllabus to bring out the very best in each and every student that I have. Wow.
Another thing that I myself have personally experienced, and I'm sure a lot of other Pokemon TCG players experience, making mistakes. Like, misplay, the word misplay, I think I can GG so many times with
Right.
What do you think are like Pokemon TCG, if you don't mind maybe telling viewers what are the most like common mistakes that Pokemon TCG players make, and like how do you like address those mistakes?
Okay. So I would like to return to a point that I mentioned before. I'm very interested in building long-term skill sets.
Yep.
I am not particularly concerned with your mastery of a certain deck. I want you to be such a good player that with every turn of the format, with each evolution of the meta, with each set released, you should be able to achieve success time and again. Because Pokemon, you're honing a long-term skill set, right? The same players who do well are likely to continue doing well as long as they play actively. Why? It's not because like they are renowned Charizard bot number 101, right? Or renowned Lawson. One day, those cards are going to rotate.
Yeah.
They're probably going to still farm limitless entries, right? How do they do it? Long-term skill sets, right? So I'm not interested in making you like the best ex-player of this archetype. I'm interested in making students just continuously succeed. Something as simple as that. And wouldn't you guys like it as well, right? And this all comes down to this thing called fundamentals.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Right? So fundamentals are defined as basic skill sets that are required for continuous and sustainable success in the game. And they are identified as being just very basic tenets of the game, maybe just one thing, just one aspect of the game. Probability counting, sequencing, which is related to probability counting. Everything interplays together, right? Because let's put it this way, formats can change.
Yep.
Cards can get rotated, new cards get introduced. But the laws of mathematics, of probability, will not change anytime soon. However, 50% tomorrow won't be more than 70%. Right? Certain skills, certain axioms you can't get away from. Sequencing, how you perform your sequencing. Such things never change. You settle certain types of cards first, then you settle other cards later. And there's a very solid mathematical reason behind it, backed by probability, which is yet another factor of fundamentals. It's all steps above. You master your basics really well, you dedicate yourself to your fundamentals, you can see everything go up at the same time. A lot of my students can attest to that. That's one thing. So a lot of people ask what are fundamentals.
Yeah.
I keep bending that term around. A lot of people bending that term around. You go and talk to more senior players, more veteran players, sometimes they'll just rattle off a lot of jargon like, yeah, your fundamentals must be good. The game is just fundamentals, right? But what is it, right?
Yeah.
So, and then some people will just ask, what is it, right? And then they say, oh, yeah, like your sequencing. And then you kind of probably know that sequencing is just the optimal order in which you play the cards to achieve the best possible result for your goal. But then a lot of questions comes up. Oh, what's the correct order? Why is it the correct order? What is your goal? Why should it be your goal? So many questions spring up from this,
Yes.
right? But they're all rooted in the same thing, fundamentals. And I don't think people cover that enough in their coaching, or at least in the free material given on YouTube videos, because that doesn't sell. If I have a video it's like, yeah, you would never believe what this champ deck did, right? Compared to like the ABCs of sequencing champion. Which one gets more views?
Sure, the first one, but honestly, I'll watch the second one.
Okay, but most people are driven by the clickbait, so it doesn't really sell in terms of like the public domain and public available information. And that's fair. But my approach is different. I want you guys to learn not just to play a certain deck, a certain strategy, right? I want you to learn the game. And trust me, with me, you'll be able to learn the game as well.
Okay, that was a very heavy interview maybe, but I think if you really went through this whole thing, congratulations to you, number one, and you get a lot of insight. For me as well, sitting here, I just learned a lot about playing the game. But I think I want to ask just a bit more lighthearted questions and maybe we're gonna learn more about, we all love Pokemon basically.
Okay.
So if you had one Pokemon TCG player in this world that you could play with, against, probably better, who would it be? It could be any era.
Definitely Jason Krasinski.
Wow. OG,
And
GOAT.
the reason why was because when I was still a rookie in the game, during my first few worlds, the playroom was always packed with very long queues of people just lining up to face Jason Krasinski.
Oh.
Right? So Worlds is a really magical experience. You enter this room concentrated with some of the very best names in the world. Names that you see on Limitless, names you see on YouTube, personalities, they're all alive in front of you, all in one room.
Yeah.
It's a very magical experience on top of everything else. And imagine being part of that queuing up just to fight Jason Krasinski, right? The guy that won 3 world championships in the Masters division. But in my rookie years, during my first few years at Worlds, I never made it to the end of the queue. The queue will terminate.
Yeah.
There was one time I was the next person to play him.
Ayo.
He left because it's time's up. If I could replay that again, because he eventually left the game and that was before I could get in the queue with him, I definitely would like to play against him. because it's somebody I looked up to very much.
Hope you get the chance. Listen, really hope one day lah. And then we'll probably wrap this up with a question that I'm very curious about personally. What is your favorite Pokemon?
Favorite Pokemon?
You got favorite Pokemon? No?
A few.
Okay, you give me your top 3 lah. Top 3.
In no particular order, Gengar, Mew, Clefairy.
Gengar and Clefairy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, secretly the same.
I guess.
If you had 2 more?
2 more? Evolve.
Oh, when I always see that, I always see the Evolve card, I will always think of it.
Right.
Seriously. We keep to top 4 lah, top 4. Thank you so much, Clifton. Really, I learned so much today, and I hope like a lot of people watching this video will learn a lot too. You're mentioning about video series. If you guys want something like that, drop it down in the comments below, guys. And until then, see you next time. Bye bye. Hey, Clifton, thanks for the interview. Hey. Actually, did I forget something? Did we forget something
from here?
I feel like I forgot something.
Oh, right.